Hey there. How's it going? That was him licking his lips or whatever that was. I'm Drew Doherty. You're John Harris.
I wasn't licking my lips.
You're doing something. Anyway, send us in your questions. Send us your name and where you're from, and we'll answer as many of them as we can. But, John, monster game again. It's the third in a three-step, and they're all important, but this three-game stretch of the Ravens, the Colts, and the Patriots is on tap. You're 1-1 through that three. You want to go 2-1, obviously, but big-time challenge in the Patriots.
Yeah.
The last time you saw them, though, was the first game of 2018, and the talent on your side of the ball is vastly different than it was then.
Yeah, it was. Or it is. It's different. It's probably more explosive. It can tend to be more inconsistent, maybe is the right word. I don't know. I mean, I just like the fact that we're finally playing him here. Played in Gillette twice in 16, once in 17, once in 18. And they all those games were different. I mean, 16, they just took us up behind the woodshed on the Thursday night. Then the playoff game, our defense is playing its guts out. We got the ball in the fourth quarter, down a score. And we were an 18-point underdog going into that one and really battled to stay in that one to the fourth quarter. And then, of course, mistakes were the undoing in the fourth quarter. In 17, we had the ball game right there. And Brady has his 2-minute magic and got the win. And then last year, he had a 3-and-out to start the game. Get the ball thinking, wow, just got 3-and-out, stop Brady. Wow, this can be great. And then we fumbled the first play. Yeah. They scored a touchdown a few plays later. And we were just kind of chasing uphill the rest of the game and ended up losing that one by 7. But it just felt like they were in control. But I feel like we're a different team. I feel like they're a different squad. They've got a lot of the same names, but there are some names missing that I think changes what they're going to want to do against the Texans. So it'll be interesting to see what happens on Sunday night.
Yeah, I got a question, and it is Brian from Facebook. And he wants to know, who will the corners be on Sunday? Now, there's a good chance that Bradley Roby's back, and he is returned from injury. You also have Jonathan Joseph, and then the two guys that you've acquired since Roby went to the IR, or not the IR, but since he was injured, and that's Garyon Conley and Vernon Hargraves, both former first-rounders. You've really upgraded the talent level there at the position. So I'm guessing you're going to see a combo of Roby and Conley, Roby and Joseph, Joseph and Conley, if you have to pick guys who are getting the lion's share of the starts.
Now, let's not forget Lonnie Johnson. Hopefully Lonnie's going to be able to come back off the foot or ankle injury, whatever he suffered in Baltimore. Yeah, that was tough to lose Lonnie, but you've got options now, which is nice. Obviously, everybody being healthy, so we'll see how they're able to put all the pieces together, regardless of who plays corner. To me, the decision comes down to which guy ends up having to cover Julian Edelman. And it shouldn't actually be a guy. It should be guys. There should not be a time where Julian Edelman is allowed to run unabated with just one guy on him. It should be Julian Edelman is a guy on his right. He's got a guy on his left. There are guys all over from covering Julian Edelman, because I think with N'Keal Harry and Jacoby Myers, you got two rookies. Not to say that covering rookies is easier than covering anybody else, because those two are going to end up being really, really good receivers, but they're inexperienced receivers right now. Julian Edelman's a Super Bowl MVP. He's a potential Hall of Famer. He's a guy that changes everything for them in the slot. So to me, it's about which guy or guys gets that assignment on Julian Edelman. Yeah. That's going to be interesting, because I think the Texans actually do have options now, where in years past we're kind of like, I don't know. How do you cover Gronk? Well, maybe Zach Cunningham, a few others. How do you cover Edelman? I don't know.
Right.
No idea.
It was always tough. And you take a Hall of Fame tight end out of the equation, it's kind of nice for the Texans. You got Connolly from Waco. He has, do the Texans have an advantage with their receivers? And between DeAndre Hopkins and Will Fuller and Kenny Stills, man, what a potent group that is.
Yep.
Stephon Gilmore, though, is pretty darn good, and the rest of that secondary is pretty darn good. But I got to think that secondary has not seen a receiving group like the one the Texans have with Deshaun Watson at quarterback. And keep in mind, it's the first time the Patriots will have seen Will Fuller with Deshaun Watson.
Right.
It's never happened before. They've only seen one or the other.
Yeah, he was dealing with the collarbone injury in week 3 of 17, and he was dealing with a hamstring week 1 of 2018. Ironically, he came back the very next game and blew it up in both those next games, because week 4, 2017 was against the Titans, and he went crazy.
Yep.
And then week 2 against the Titans, he was changing things on the field. It was amazing to see. I wouldn't say that the Texans have an advantage, but they do have Deshaun Watson throw it to him, so it's not as if you've got all this talent and it's being wasted in some sense because you're having guys that are not Deshaun Watson throwing him the football. But you're talking about one of the better groups of cover corners that you're going to find between John Jones, number 31, Stephon Gilmore, 24, J.C. Jackson, number 27. Those guys can cover, and they can cover very, very well. And we've seen Keon Crossan do some good things for the Texans, and Keon was like their fifth or sixth guy.
Yeah.
So it's a group that can cover as well as anybody. So I don't know if the Texans receivers have a distinct advantage, but this secondary has 20 interceptions this year.
Yeah.
Well, the Patriots have 20 interceptions. The secondary has the majority of them. So I don't know if I'd say the receivers have an advantage, but we're not bringing a knife to a gunfight. I know that. I know that for a fact. So they're going to have to figure out how they want to cover Fuller and Hopkins and then Kenny. They got to figure all that out, and I think that could end up being tough for them. But they will double somebody and take that guy completely out of the game. That's going to be the goal. It's just a matter of which guy it's going to be.
All right, Derek on Facebook. How have you felt about the offensive line's performance this year? How can you not feel better? I mean, it's looked so much better. You've got 3 new faces there in Laramie Tunsil, Titus Howard, and then at Max Sharping at left guard. But it's been so much better in 2019 than it was really the last 3 or 4 seasons.
Yep.
And you got to think also with the depth, guys like Roderick Johnson, they've come in and they've been solid. And really, in the middle of training camp, middle of the preseason, you thought, that guy might start.
Right.
I mean, he might be a starter before Tunsil got here. So Roderick Johnson has been good as well, but it's been very nice to see the cohesion because they've given Deshaun Watson time. And when he's gotten sacked, it's almost been more on Watson at times when he's gotten sacked this year.
The Ravens, that was a tough ball game for everybody involved. And I felt like initially the offensive line held up pretty well.
Yeah.
The Ravens did bring some, I don't want to say complicated blitzes, but they brought the blitz a few times. But early in that game, the sacks were because receivers weren't able to get open. Deshaun had to hold it a little bit longer, and then the sacks ended up coming at that point. I think the offensive line has performed very, very well. I think when you look at the Colts in 2018, the Colts sacked Deshaun, it felt like a dozen times maybe more than that. Probably about 15 times over 3 games. It just felt like every time he went back to pass, he had pressure. And I think Deshaun felt that. Especially in the playoff game, he felt that.
Right.
He felt like the pocket was collapsing as soon as he got to his back step. The other night against the Colts, the Ben Bandigo had a sack, for -1 yard.
Yeah.
That was it. That was the only – I mean, that shows you how far this offensive line has come just in that stat alone. Now, it's not just that, but – that's a pretty good indication.
And he was bludgeoned last year throughout the first 8 games, and really the whole season long, but it was ugly, ugly, ugly to the point where he had to ride the bus because of the lung and everything, Jacksonville. So it was a bad scene. And it wasn't just the offensive line's fault last year, but on the whole, I think the bottom line is this line, much better, and it's got a lot of hope for the future.
I don't think there's any question. I mean, you bring over Laramie Tunsil, and that'll get to our next question. Cameron from Texas asking who's made a bigger impact, Laramie Tunsil or Kenny Stills, and I just say yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think
they've both been very, very good.
I think if you've got to press for an answer, it's taken nothing away from Kenny Stills because he's had a big, big impact. Yeah. But, man, everything that Tunsil's done
the best in the game,
to raise the boats all along him has been huge.
Yeah. I mean, Laramie's the best in the game.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, you watch him, he puts on clinic tape each and every day. The way that he protects. And I know people will point at the false starts and those things. I think some of that just comes with cohesion, just the continuity aspect of things, getting used to cadences, getting used to when Nick's snapping the ball, everybody being kind of on the same page. Trusting yourself a little bit more, knowing, hey, I'm going to trust my athleticism here even though I'm going against Jabal Sheard or Justin Houston. I'm going to trust myself even if I got just be a half beat slower because – I have been getting a false start, whatever. But to me, I don't want to say it's beside the point because you can't have false starts. I mean, obviously in a game like this, you can't have them in particular. But Laramie's so good at what he does. The fact that he can just take Justin Houston completely out of the game. And he had two big sacks the first time we played. And he just took him completely out of the game. Houston did nothing.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you need to have to win that game.
That was awesome. Okay, we're going to wrap things up with Taylor from Washington. And Taylor wants to know, what is the key to beating the Patriots? I mean, this is a great question. You've not beaten them 8 straight times.
Yep.
And you've not beaten them since 2009 when nobody else was on this current team. So it's been a decade. I think you can go a zillion different ways with this question, but when I said on Extra Points, which will air tomorrow night, I said just be close late with these guys, and I like our chances with Deshaun Watson. And make sure you hit them deep a time or two, because if you hit them deep,
that's good.
You're hitting them deep, and you're also opening things up for your run game, and you're giving just more breathing room to your offense.
I think the first key actually happens, and has happened this week, but it'll happen when they walk in this building. When they walk in this building, they got to feel like when 60 minutes are up, we're winning this game. Not we hope to win.
Mm-hmm.
It is we will have won this game. We are going, and so I think it's a mindset you have to have, because that's the mindset that those guys over there have. The other aspect of it is this game is 60 minutes. I know it sounds obvious, but not 59-23, not 58 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You got to play this thing all the way to the final gun. And I think from a play and a coach perspective, you really have to attack them. You can't ever feel comfortable. You get a 10-point lead, that's not enough. You can't feel like 14's enough. You get the 21-point lead, 21's not enough. Get to 24. You have to keep thinking about just driving the stake home, because if you leave this thing close, then they're going to find a way to do something, because they've been in those situations. They've been in the stadium down 25 points in a Super Bowl and found a way to come back and win that one. You never have enough points. Keep attacking. Now, there is some granular stuff that, I'd love to see the Texans go up tempo. They've got to be productive on first and second down and not get in third and long, because the Patriots are one of the best teams I've seen, especially defensively, in utilizing the unique personnel they have to maximize what they're about to do. So if it's 3rd and 10, they have a way to put personnel on the field to maximize the pass rush and with coverage. If it's 3rd and 1, they have a way to maximize their front to go against your short yardage group. So they do a really good job, but you can keep them off track and off base with doing some of those other things. Defensively, I think Edelman's the one that worries me the most, because he's the guy Brady goes to when things get tough. When the Patriots struggle, I guarantee you Brady looks at Julian Edelman in the huddle and goes, I'm coming to you no matter what. Because he looks on a huddle a lot of times now, and he
doesn't know anybody. It's somebody that's just been here for a few months.
But he knows his buddy Jules, and he's going to Jules. So take Jules away from him and see how he reacts. So do all that. You got an opportunity to win this game, and that'd be great.
Let's win a game. Sounds good. Thank you, John Harris. Thank you for listening and watching and sending in questions, and thank you to Tyler Marcotte. I almost called him Taylor for some reason.
Yeah, Tyler, same thing.
Tyler Marcotte.
Fire up chips, baby.
And Amanda Caffey. Thank you very much. See you later.